Then the Venerable Upali approached the Lord. 99 Upali. Then the Venerable Upali approached the Lord, paid homage to him, sat down to one side, and said, Bhante, I wish to resort to remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves. Remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves are hard to endure, Upali. Solitude is hard to undertake and hard to delight in. When he is alone, the would steal the mind of a bhikkhu who does not gain samadhi. It can be expected that one who says I do not gain samadhi, yet I will resort to remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves will either sink or float away. Suppose, Upali, there was a large lake, and a bull elephant 7 or 8 cubits in size would come along. He might think, let me enter this lake and playfully wash my ears and back. I will bathe and drink, come out, and set off wherever I want. He then enters the lake and playfully washes his ears and back. He bathes and drinks, comes out, and sets off wherever he wants. How so? Because his large body finds a footing in the depths. Then a hare or a cat comes along. It might think, how is a bull elephant different from myself? I'll enter this lake and playfully wash my ears and back. I will bathe and drink, come out, and set off wherever I want. Then, without reflecting, it hastily enters the deep lake. It can be expected that it will either sink or float away. Why so? Because its small body does not find a footing in the depths. So too, it can be expected that one who would say, I do not gain samadhi, yet I will resort to remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves, will either sink or float away. Suppose, Upali, a young infant boy, lying on his back, would play with his own urine and feces. What do you think, isn't that a completely unwise type of amusement? Yes, Bhante. Some time later, when that boy grows up and his faculties mature, he would play the games that are typical for boys' games with toy plows, stick games, somersaults, games with pinwheels, games with measures made of leaves, games with toy chariots, games with toy bows. What do you think, isn't this amusement more excellent and sublime than the former kind? Yes, Bhante. At a still later time, as that boy continues to grow up and his faculties mature still more, he enjoys himself furnished and endowed with the 5 objects of sensual pleasure. With forms cognizable by the eye that are wished for, desired, agreeable, pleasing, connected with sensual pleasure, tantalizing. With sounds cognizable by the ear. With odors cognizable by the nose. With tastes cognizable by the tongue. With tactile objects cognizable by the body that are wished for, desired, agreeable, pleasing, connected with sensual pleasure, tantalizing. What do you think, isn't this amusement more excellent and sublime than the former kind? Yes, Bhante. Here, Upali, the Tathagata arises in the world. An arahant, perfectly enlightened, accomplished in true knowledge and conduct, fortunate, knower of the world, unsurpassed trainer of persons to be tamed, teacher of devas and humans, the enlightened one, the Lord. Having realized with his own direct knowledge this world with its devas, Mara and Brahma, this population with its ascetics and Brahmins, with its devas and humans, he makes it known to others. He teaches the Dhamma that is good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end, with the right meaning and phrasing. He reveals the perfectly complete and pure Brahmacharya. A householder or householder's son or one born in some other clan hears this Dhamma. He then acquires faith in the Tathagata and considers thus. Household life is crowded and dusty. Life gone forth into hermit life is wide open. It is not easy, while living at home, to lead the Brahmacharya that is utterly perfect and pure as a polished conch shell. Suppose I shave off my hair and beard, put on ochre robes, and go forth from the household life into hermit life. On a later occasion, having abandoned a small or a large fortune, having abandoned a small or a large circle of relatives, he shaves off his hair and beard, puts on ochre robes, and goes forth from the household life into hermit life. Having thus gone forth into hermit life and possessing the bhikkhu's training and way of life, having abandoned the destruction of life, he abstains from the destruction of life. With the rod and weapon laid aside, conscientious and kindly, he dwells compassionate toward all living beings. Having abandoned taking what is not given, he abstains from taking what is not given. He takes only what is given, expects only what is given, and dwells honestly without thoughts of theft. Having abandoned sexual activity, he observes celibacy, living apart, abstaining from sexual intercourse, the common person's practice. Having abandoned false speech, he abstains from false speech. He speaks truth, adheres to truth. He is trustworthy and reliable, no deceiver of the world. Having abandoned divisive speech, he abstains from divisive speech. He does not repeat elsewhere what he has heard here in order to divide those people from these, nor does he repeat to these what he has heard elsewhere in order to divide these people from those. Thus he is one who reunites those who are divided, a promoter of unity, who enjoys concord, rejoices in concord, delights in concord, a speaker of words that promote concord. Having abandoned harsh speech, he abstains from harsh speech. He speaks words that are gentle, pleasing to the ear, lovable, words that go to the heart, courteous words that are desired by many people and agreeable to many people. Having abandoned idle chatter, he abstains from idle chatter. He speaks at a proper time. Speaks what is fact, speaks on what is beneficial, speaks on the Dhamma and the discipline. At the proper time he speaks words that are worth recording, reasonable, succinct, and beneficial. He abstains from injuring seeds and plants. He eats once a day, abstaining from eating at night and outside the proper time. He abstains from dancing, singing, instrumental music, and unsuitable shows. He abstains from adorning and beautifying himself by wearing garlands and applying scents and unguents. He abstains from high and large beds. He abstains from accepting gold and silver, raw grain, raw meat, women and girls, men and women slaves, goats and sheep, fowl and pigs, elephants, cattle, horses and marais, fields and land. He abstains from going on errands and running messages. From buying and selling. From cheating with weights, metals, and measures. From accepting bribes, deceiving, defrauding, and trickery. He abstains from wounding, murdering, binding, brigandage, plunder, and violence. He is content with robes to protect his body and alms food to maintain his stomach, and wherever he goes he sets out taking only these with him. Just as a bird, wherever it goes, flies with its wings as its only burden. So too, a bhikkhu is content with robes to protect his body and alms food to maintain his stomach, and wherever he goes he sets out taking only these with him. Possessing this aggregate of noble virtuous behavior, he experiences blameless bliss within himself. Having seen a form with the eye, he does not grasp at its marks and features. Since, if he left the eye faculty unrestrained, bad harmful states of longing and dejection might invade him, he practices restraint over it. He guards the eye faculty, he undertakes the restraint of the eye faculty. Having heard a sound with the ear. Having smelled an odor with the nose. Having tasted a taste with the tongue. Having felt a tactile object with the body. Having cognized a mental phenomenon with the mind, he does not grasp at its marks and features. Since, if he left the mind faculty unrestrained, bad harmful states of longing and dejection might invade him, he practices restraint over it. He guards the mind faculty, he undertakes the restraint of the mind faculty. Possessing this noble restraint of the faculties, he experiences unsullied bliss within himself. He acts with complete comprehension when going forward and returning. He acts with complete comprehension when looking ahead and looking away. He acts with complete comprehension when bending and stretching his limbs. He acts with complete comprehension when wearing his robes and carrying his outer robe and bowl. He acts with complete comprehension when eating, drinking, consuming food, and tasting. He acts with complete comprehension when defecating and urinating. He acts with complete comprehension when walking, standing, sitting, falling asleep, waking up, talking, and keeping silent. Possessing this aggregate of noble virtuous behavior, and this noble restraint of the faculties, and this noble mindfulness and complete comprehension, he resorts to a secluded lodging. The forest, the root of a tree, a mountain, a ravine, a hillside cave, a charnel ground, a jungle thicket, an open space, a heap of straw. Having gone to the forest, to the foot of a tree, or to an empty hut, he sits down, folding his legs crosswise, straightening his body, and establishing mindfulness in front of him. Having abandoned longing for the world, he dwells with a mind free from longing. He purifies his mind from longing. Having abandoned ill will and hatred, he dwells with a mind free from ill will, compassionate for the welfare of all living beings. He purifies his mind from ill will and hatred. Having abandoned dullness and drowsiness, he dwells free from dullness and drowsiness, perceptive of light, mindful and completely comprehending. He purifies his mind from dullness and drowsiness. Having abandoned restlessness and remorse, he dwells without agitation, with a mind inwardly peaceful. He purifies his mind from restlessness and remorse. Having abandoned doubt, he dwells having gone beyond doubt, unperplexed about beneficial qualities. He purifies his mind from doubt. Having thus abandoned these 5 hindrances, defilements of the mind, qualities that weaken panna, secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from harmful states, he enters upon and dwells in the first jhana, which consists of bliss and happiness born of seclusion, accompanied by thought and examination. What do you think? Isn't this dwelling more excellent and sublime than those that precede it? Yes, Bhante. It is when they see this quality within themselves that my disciples resort to remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves. But they still haven't attained their own goal. Again, Upali, with the subsiding of thought and examination, the bhikkhu enters and dwells in the second jhana. What do you think? Isn't this dwelling more excellent and sublime than those that precede it? Yes, Bhante. It is when they see this quality, too, within themselves that my disciples resort to remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves. But they still haven't attained their own goal. Again, Upali, with the fading away as well of bliss, he enters and dwells in the third jhana. What do you think? Isn't this dwelling more excellent and sublime than those that precede it? Yes, Bhante. It is when they see this quality, too, within themselves that my disciples resort to remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves. But they still haven't attained their own goal. Again, Upali, with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, he enters and dwells in the fourth jhana. What do you think? Isn't this dwelling more excellent and sublime than those that precede it? Yes, Bhante. It is when they see this quality, too, within themselves that my disciples resort to remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves. But they still haven't attained their own goal. Again, Upali, with the complete surmounting of perception of forms, with the passing away of perceptions of sensory impingement, with non-attention to perceptions of diversity, perceiving space is infinite, the bhikkhu enters and dwells in the sphere of the infinity of space. What do you think? Isn't this dwelling more excellent and sublime than those that precede it? Yes, Bhante. It is when they see this quality, too, within themselves that my disciples resort to remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves. But they still haven't attained their own goal. Again, Upali, by completely surmounting the sphere of the infinity of space, perceiving consciousness is infinite, he enters and dwells in the sphere of the infinity of consciousness. What do you think? Isn't this dwelling more excellent and sublime than those that precede it? Yes, Bhante. It is when they see this quality, 2. Within themselves that my disciples resort to remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves. But they still haven't attained their own goal. Again, Upali, by completely surmounting the sphere of the infinity of consciousness, perceiving there is nothing, he enters and dwells in the sphere of nothingness. What do you think, Upali, isn't this dwelling more excellent and sublime than those that precede it? Yes, Bhante. It is when they see this quality, too, within themselves that my disciples resort to remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves. But they still haven't attained their own goal. Again, Upali. By completely surmounting the sphere of nothingness, perceiving this is peaceful, this is sublime, he enters and dwells in the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. What do you think, isn't this dwelling more excellent and sublime than those that precede it? Yes, Bhante. It is when they see this quality, too, within themselves that my disciples resort to remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves. But they still haven't attained their own goal. Again, Upali, by completely surmounting the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, he enters and dwells in the cessation of perception and sensation. And having seen with punna, his taints are utterly destroyed. What do you think, isn't this dwelling more excellent and sublime than those that precede it? Yes, Bhante. It is when they see this quality, too, within themselves that my disciples resort to remote lodgings in forests and jungle groves. And they dwell having attained their own goal. Come, Upali, dwell within the Sangha. While you dwell within the Sangha you will be at ease.